So this week's is kind of a long one, mostly because I originally didn't think that there was going to be like as many settlements as there are in Fallout 4 when I originally started working on this video. That ballooned out like crazy, so give you a quick little overview here, okay? We're going to be seeing how, sustainable, I was going to say survivable, sustainable each settlement is in Fallout 4, right? We're going to grade it on a score of 0 to 100. Each category, 25 points. Food, shelter, water, security. You know, basic things that you need to survive, right? So, that's what we're going with. Don't really want to delay this too long because this video is going to be long enough as is. So, let's get started with Abernathy Farm, right? Now, some of these I know of, some of these I don't know of. This farm is one of the first ones you come across as a settlement in-game. You'll probably even find it before you get to Concord to help Preston Garvey and do the whole settlement quest for Sanctuary Hills. It's a farm southwest of Sanctuary, you know, built under one of those giant power relay towers, which is pretty cool in concept and design. And it's, it's a farm, right? So they have no problem with food. From what I've been able to see and calculate, because I spent time looking at each individual part of food, what they grow, how much water they make. Some food is different in Fallout 4 than other foods. For instance, mut fruit or mute fruit, whichever one it is. They give 1 unit of food, right? And 1 unit of food is needed to feed 1 person per day. Mut fruit, mute fruit, whatever, I've always called it mut fruit, gives 1 unit of food per plant, right? Everything else gives half a unit of food. Simple enough to keep track of, right? Only one thing gives 1, everything else gives halves. Gives half. Goddamn. And then there's water. Every settler needs 1 unit of water per day. Each of the different wells or water purification systems give different amounts of water. The most basic one, the hand pump, gives 3 units of water per day to your settlement. And each person in turn needs 1 unit of water per day to live, right? So those are the inbuilt standards of the game we're going to go with. Now, where we're going to deviate off of that path is security. They have inbuilt systems for security and raids and all that. We're not going to worry about that. What we're going to worry about is the actuality of security, right? The most basic form of, can you defend yourself? You know, can each settler defend themselves if they're pushed to? So, 0 would be you have no weapon. You're just bare hand fighting. Not really the best thing out there when a mutant dog could eat your leg. Second thing, melee weapons. Kind of self-explanatory there. Third thing, guns, right? Those are the categories to look at. And then, you know, there's different variations on firearms. Is it a pipe weapon, which Fallout 4 fucking loves, or a purpose-built weapon, right? If it's a pipe weapon, we dock points because they're not supposed to be reliable in lore. You know, I'm not going to get too much into that because YouTube doesn't like people talking about that. But yeah, simple as that there. Purpose-built weapons, and if someone's armored, count toward it. But then the big things that actually count toward it are walls, as you would figure, guard posts, and turrets. And dedicated guards, you know, people whose job it is to simply be a guard. Nice and easy to keep track of. The next thing that Fallout doesn't really take into consideration, well, they kind of do, kind of don't, is shelter. In the base game, you only need to worry about number of beds. You can stack a bunch in one place and just call it a day. They can be sitting outside, doesn't matter. What we're looking at here, though, is how sheltered is the actual place. Can it keep rain off of you? Can it keep snow off of you? Can it keep you safe from a rad storm? That sort of thing, right? And the scores and stuff, if you're wondering, are all based on the basic survival rules, right? 3 minutes without air if you're calm, and or 3 minutes to stop significant bleeding. 3 hours in severe conditions or extreme conditions without shelter. 3 days without water. 3 weeks without food. That sort of thing, right? That's pretty much what we're basing this all off of. Now that I've actually explained all that, all after I already introduced the first place, Abernathy Farm. The farm, southwest of Sanctuary Hills, makes its own food. Somewhat large and imposing house built under a power pylon. That's cool. Like to see more non-residential structures and infrastructure made into actual houses. So let's break down what they get here. They produce 18.5 food from my calculations. Mind you, I just ran around the map and picked all their crops to see how many I would end up with. So about 18.5 food is what they make. They make 3 water. So keep that in mind. Security-wise, they have a pipe pistol, one of them does. One of them had a baseball bat, and one of them had a shotgun. I don't know if the leveled lists of the settlers changes, especially the predetermined settlers in each settlement. But if they do, then the security can be completely different if you were to go through and vet this process if you wanted to. And shelter. They have a house to live in. Cool. Let's break that down, right? There are 3 people that live there. The mother, the father, and one of the daughters. The other one died to raiders, I guess. So, 3 people. That means we need 3 units of food. We need 3 units of water. Let's compare that to what they make. I already said that they make 18.5 units of food. They're over double what they need, so we don't need to worry about that. They get a 25 for food production. They make enough to be able to export it. Awesome, cool, amazing. Water. They make 3. They need 3. Now, the reason that I'm giving them a 10 for that instead of like a 15 or a 20, they're meeting their needs without needing to rely on trading. Some other places will meet their needs without needing to rely on trading, but their scores are going to be higher because of where the water comes from, right? These basic hand pump wells are shallow wells. You dig them by hand. Usually you can use equipment nowadays if you wanted to. But back in the day, and most likely in Fallout, they're dug by hand down to a certain depth until you hit water. Then sometimes, depending on what type of well it is, you can either build a wall in it and around it, bring it all the way up just to reinforce it. That then fills with water. You have a well. You then usually cap off the well, unless you want like a wishing well style bucket well, which, not good. You're opening the water to the air. That's not good. Anything can get in there, die, and pollute it. Then you usually cap off the well and then draw water from it. Nowadays, we use perforated pipes, usually with some type of sediment filter along the outside, and then a secondary filter on the inside before you actually get to the pump, which is down in the well casing. The well casing is just a pipe, mind you. And that's it. You draw water up from it. Simple enough. To dig deeper wells, I say dig wells, they burrow or bore wells nowadays. They just take a pipe and they drill down with it, adding casing as they go. You can go thousands of feet down like this if you want to. Hit all sorts of water tables and shit that way. But for Fallout, especially Fallout 4, we just need to take into consideration how these wells are usually fed, right? The way water works, water falls from the sky sometimes. I know, crazy idea. And it soaks into the ground. Water wants to find the point of, well, least resistance and the lowest it can go that way. Which means water that falls down is going to be filtered through the ground into your well. Depending on how deep your well is, it depends on how much filtration, so to speak, is going to be done for the water. I don't see these wells being more than like 20 foot deep at the deepest. So many of them are probably fed with rainwater. And as we know in Fallout, rad storms come along and by this point in time, there shouldn't be any radiation in the air, but there is, which is weird. But that means it's being fed with water from the environment that is still radioactive. While in-game, these wells give you purified water, clean water to drink, not dirty water. I still think that due to the rules of Fallout, this water would be contaminated and can be considered dirty water, right? So it depends on really how it's fed. So the well in the Abernathy farm, it is southwest of Sanctuary, which does have water leading around it, but I feel like it's far enough away to where it's fed by rainwater. Okay? We already talked about food, security. We give security, we give them a 10 in security because one of them has a baseball bat, one of them has a pipe pistol, one of them has a shotgun. Baseball bat, melee weapon. It's literally just a step up from your bare hands. Pipe pistol, better than a baseball bat. Not as reliable as a purpose-built shotgun, though. So, we give them a 10. Armed citizens, fine, work well. Mind you, raiders well, we already know raiders target them for food, so security not the best on the planet, so they get a 10 there. Shelter is a 5. 5 because it's literally just a step up from living outside. Whilst from the outside and at first glance it seems large and imposing, like, oh, this is a really cool place, until you realize no boards are actually butted up together. There seems to be more gaps than there are wall at this point. Half of the fucking roof has just gone to an open staircase that leads downstairs. And the footage that's probably playing behind me right now, you'll see that it's raining, right? You'll see that it's raining, and you'll see that it rains inside. Now, you could just say, oh, well, that's because it's a limitation of the engine. It's not a limitation of the engine. Because right outside of the Abernathy farm, Abernathy? Yeah, Abernathy farm, there's a little, like, cargo vault office mobile roll-off container thing. If it's raining and you go from outside to inside that thing, there's no rain on your screen, which shows that it's watertight. And in the Abernathy home, water's raining straight down on the beds, water's raining straight down throughout the entire house. Not watertight. It's not weather tight. You're going to get irradiated to high hell in a rad storm in this place. Technically do whenever you're outside of most cells and stuff in the game, but that doesn't matter, right? It's not going to keep the elements off you the way it should. It's terrible. And with all the wood and metal they have at their disposal here, they could have built a cabin half the size that was more stable, more secure, and just better all around. They just chose not to. Like, I get it, aesthetics, post-apocalyptia, people throwing things together to live in. Not that hard to just place boards one on top of the other and nail them in place, man. It's really not. People have been doing it for I was gonna say tens of thousands of years, but who fucking knows how long, right? So shelter is a 5. That gives us 25 for food, 10 for water, 10 for security, 5 for shelter. For a grand total of... And to quickly double check my math there because I thought I was going crazy. Yeah, no, it's just a baseline 50 of survivability, or, you know, however you want to put it there. If these places can be self-sustaining, self-sufficient, they get a score of 50 in this so far. Mind you, 50 out of 100. So not terrible. Food really carried them in that one. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the next settlement here. Some of these, before we move on, some of these are going to be rapid fire, quickly done. You don't need to worry about it. Quick little flash behind me. I explain why, then we move on. Okay? Keep that in mind for later on. Alright, now I gave you that preface in the last one there for this one and quite a few other ones. Boston Airport. If you haven't figured out, we're going in alphabetical order here because it was easier to do a spreadsheet that way. And yes, I made a spreadsheet for this and spent like 8 hours recording the B-roll. You're welcome. Anyway, next one, Boston Airport. No one lives there. Gets a 0 and everything. Ta-da. So let me explain a little bit more about how these areas work and how this works just in general. We're talking about the settlements as they are when we, the player, first come across them. That's it. No intervention from the sole survivor at all. And as such, the Boston airport has flat zeros across the board because there's no one there. There's no food that's needed, there's no water that's needed, there's no security that's needed, there's no shelter that's needed. It just fails across the board. Right? Like a tree falling in the woods. Anyone around here, it does a score matter if there's no one living there? Right? So, that's the Boston airport. Move on to the next one. So continuing on, we move on to Bunker Hill. Again, going in alphabetical order for the most part. Don't worry about it. Bunker Hill. Well, everyone knows what Bunker Hill is at this point. It's one of the main locations that you have to go to in pretty much every storyline of Fallout 4 takes you to Bunker Hill sooner or later. Fortification around a monument, an obelisk, and then like a museum thing behind it. There you go. That's a quick description of Bunker Hill off the top of my head. And from memory of a game I don't play that much. So, population of Bunker Hill is 6. There are usually more people here. But those are caravans and caravan guards, because this is a trade hub, right? But by the by, there are 6 settlers that call this place home, right? So, wandering around, looking around, we find they have crops floating around. That's cool. Have some wells floating around. Awesome. There's a guy that's got armor and stuff, has, a cool gun. Great. They have walls. Almost unheard of in the Commonwealth for some reason. Perfect. Okay, so what's the score here? Well, they make 6 food. And as you know, you need to have 1 food per settlers. There's 6 settlers, so 6 food. They produce just enough food to be self-sufficient. Let's play devil's advocate here a little bit. Well, what happens if their crop fails? Well, they're a trade hub, so they can just get food in through trade. Not much of an issue there. So we're just gonna give them a 25 for food. Nice and simple. Next one's water. If you're wondering why I keep looking off to this side, it's because I have a big ass TV there that I have information on. Because I can't have anything behind me because that's where my bed is. Anyway, water. They make, well, I'm in this one, 6 water. That means they have 2 hand pumps there, okay? If memory serves me right, the hand pumps give 3 water each. The next step up from that, the industrial pump or homemade pump or whatever it is, that produces 6 water each, I think. Then the next one up produces like 10, and then the highest level one, which needs to be put in water, purifies like 40, but all the other ones need power, which is why you're not really going to see too many of those floating around. So assume when I say a pump, I mean the hand pump, because the only one that doesn't need power. But there are 2 hand pumps, which produce enough water. It's in the middle of a town, so this is where this gets weird. In the middle of a town, which means there is pre-war infrastructure leading in from pre-war wells. Well, most towns and stuff will have water towers feeding water into the town. Simply because it's, I guess, logistically easier to pump water into one stationary place and then just let gravity pump it to the rest, instead of trying to pump it to each individual place. I don't know anything about hydrodynamics or anything like that, so not going to bore you with the details. Why they didn't tap into the pre-war infrastructure, I don't know, especially when other settlements on the list have done so. So they just go with shallow wells. Middle of town like this, shallow wells. It's getting fed by the rain, so score for that's going to be a 10, right? Not the best thing out there. Security, though. They got walls. I know, crazy. They got a wall around the perimeter of the town. I was going to say outside of the town, but perimeter of the town, walls. A lot of buildings are butted up against it. Not the best thing security-wise. Then you have the one trader that sells guns and stuff inside. Usually wears combat armor and carries an LMG. Mind you, in-game it's called like an assault rifle, which what the dude's carrying isn't an assault rifle. It's like a air/water-cooled light machine gun. It's fucking weird. It's just a mishmash of a bunch of different fucking weapons and designs. It's weird. It's moving on. One guy is properly armed and armored. Cool. Everyone else has pipe guns. They have no permanent guards. They have no turrets or anything. So they got walls. So, since they have walls and everyone is armed with a projectile weapon, we're going to give them a 15 for security. Shelter. Shelter's a 5. Same reason as the Abernathy farm. None of these structures were built to be fucking airtight, watertight, or at the very least to keep water off of you when you're under them. All of them are built with rotted out corrugated metal or just fucking blankets as roofs, which is bad. Most of these buildings have 3 walls, not 4, and one side is just completely open to the air. Mattresses laying straight on the wood, which is not good. They're not meant to keep the elements off of you. They're maybe meant to keep the sun off of you, but that's about it, right? They're not good. So they get a 5 on that. Okay, that means Bunker Hill. It's 55, I think, unless I'm just completely wrong again. I have no idea why I formatted that one the way I did. Damn near gave myself a fucking stroke trying to read that one from the way I'm looking at it. Always make sure you put all of your information in the correct lines when you're doing a spreadsheet. That way you don't fuck yourself up when it comes time to actually read it. Anyway, yes, it is a 55 as the score for Bunker Hill. Moving on to the next one. The next location, one of my favorite locations in all of Fallout 4. Many a dream build made here, settlement-wise, and that is the castle. Yeah, it gets a 0. Simple as that. One, there's no one living there when you first show up to it. Just infested with Mirelurks, including a Mirelurk queen. You could take it over and build there if you wanted to, right from the beginning of the game. But yeah, no, there's it gets a 0. It's just infested with wildlife. We're not scoring how well wildlife can live in the post-apocalyptic wasteland because it's kind of their wasteland. But yeah, the castle gets a 0. Moving on to the next one. And from the castle to the coasts. Well, coastal cottage, to be precise here. Yeah, coastal cottage gets a 0. It's overrun with Mirelurks too, right? You haven't caught on. A lot of these settlements are just completely fucking empty when you find them. Which is why you probably didn't know half of these places exist. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Next one is County Crossing. Not really one I remember too well, so we're just going to get into the nitty-gritty of the score here. 2 settlers call this place home, which is kind of weird for most places, which usually have 3, but whatever. 2 settlers call this place home. County Crossing makes 15 food, which is more than double what they need, so they get a 25 for score. Okay? Next one, water. They have 1 well that makes 3. It's shallow. And this is... I went back and forth on the score for water here, right? Because it's a shallow well. We know that already. And dug. Well put in it. Well pump put in it. We know it's fed from nearby water sources. And in most cases, it's the rain that falls from the sky, leaches through the ground, into the well casing, well housing, well walls, whatever. And that's where you get your water. There is standing water nearby to County Crossing. Issue is there are cars in that standing water. Okay, and if water is standing, then that means the ground around it is so saturated with water it can't hold it anymore. Okay? So, you may be thinking, okay, that's a few old cars in it. More iron in your water. Every car in Fallout runs off of a demon core, which is a small atomic engine. So that's radioactive material leaching directly into the water that is most likely feeding this well. So I went back and forth on a 5 to a 10, 5 to 10. Just keep it simple and in place. We're just going to give it a 10. But understand the water is most likely contaminated. So keep that in mind. It would most likely be not just dirty water, but irradiated water at that. Security, 2 guys, each one have shotguns. At least they did for me. I don't know if they do for you. But each one had shotguns. That's cool. I'm going to give them a score of 10 for security. Shelter. Shelter is a 10. Right? Scrap metal house. Lots of holes in the roof. A little more structurally sound. But the roof is really where it gets its better score from than most here. Is because it has a lot less holes in the roof. There are still a fuck ton of holes in the roof, mind you. You're not going to find corrugated metal in the Commonwealth wasteland because, well, that doesn't have holes in it. Just at all. It's weird, but then again, it's been 200 years. And again, most corrugated metal, if left alone, is just kind of fine. Because it's either galvanized or, like, painted with a thick enamel paint to keep... Literally, you have to hit it to break the seal to get it to rust, to then rot through. Whatever. Right? Just whatever. So with that one all done, final score on County Crossing is a 55, which is not bad. Although, you could argue it's a 50 due to the water, which is completely understandable. But yeah, they produce a good amount of food. So let's move on to the next one. The next one, and if you've been paying attention and going down the list in alphabetical order with me, then you'll know it's Covenant. The nicest little town in the wasteland. That's not cannibals, anyway. Covenant has 8 or 9 people, depending on if you want to count the robot, and maybe even more if you want to count the cat. Though I don't think cats count toward population cost. I think they just contribute to happiness, which is weird. Anyway, food. They make 8.5. If you want to count the robots don't need food. So we'll say they produce just half a unit more than they need. That's okay. I'd usually knock it down in score. Because, what if they have a famine? What if their crop doesn't come in the way it's supposed to? They're also a town with traders and stuff, so we're not going to dock them too much for that. So, give them a 15. Give them a 15 for that. Just because if you do want to count the robot, because maybe, even though I know the Mr. Handys use atomic batteries in them, although we do find, like, Mr. Handy fuel, so maybe you could theorize that they need a food unit to make ethanol to run the Mr. Handy. Either which way, they do have a trader that can trade for the food they need, so they're not just going to rely on scavenging or anything like that. So we'll give them a 15 for food, okay? Water. They have 1 well in this place. Produces 3 water. Not even a third. Well, it is exactly a third of what they need if you're counting the Mr. Handy. Which, again, if you're going to be making ethanol, you take the maize. Not going to explain how to make booze here. But you could theorize that the Mr. Handy needs 1 unit of water for, like, coolant, if you will. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to be wishy-washy on that one. We're just going to say it's 9, say he needs the stuff here, move on. Security. Oh, security for this one. 25. Full on, best score you can get, 25 for security. Why? They got concrete walls, reinforced concrete walls with razor wire and turrets, and they have a gate guard. Can't get any better than that in the wasteland. You literally cannot. And I'm fairly sure everyone else carries guns too, so also everyone's armed. Awesome. Awesome. Shelter. Oh, shelter is a 25. So, running through the score here, 25 for security, 25 for housing. What was it? 10 for. What was that? 10 for water, because they can trade for the extra water they don't produce. And then a 15 for food, because they can trade for what they don't produce. And or they produce just enough, or 1/2 unit less than what they need to, which gives them a final score of 75 so far. Not bad for the nicest little crazy town in the Commonwealth wasteland. I mean, you compare that to the nicest little town in the DC wasteland, and at least they're not eating you, so food for thought, I guess. Move on to the next one. The next one, super quick, super simple, super easy. Croup Manor gets a 0. It's overrun with ghouls. Feral ghouls, not normal, non-feral ghouls. Yeah, no, again, it's another settlement that doesn't have anyone living in it, so we don't really even need to score it. Still going to toss out a score simply because I did all the work on it, so gets a 0. Moving on to the next one. Now, the next one is one I can barely pronounce the goddamn name of, and that's, what is this? Ergen Tors Marina. Ergen, whatever. It's the marina with the old lady that that did kill. You know what? Find the place. You'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we come across it. There's one person living there. Crazy old lady. Not really going to call her a settler. We'll call her a resident. She kind of don't stick around. There is no food. There is no water. There is one lady with a pipe rifle that lives there. And she lives in a bombed out building where her bed is open to the sky. So, kind of half in, half out on giving shelter a 0 or a 5. Technically, she could move her bed downstairs and get a 5. Upstairs, it's a 0. So, yeah, I think this is like the first settlement with people in it that gets a flat 0 across the board. Crazy, I know. Not really self-sufficient. Can't really sustain itself. Maybe she's a scavenger and or they can fish or something. I don't know. But 0 for this place. Move on to the next one. Next one we're moving on to is Finch Farm. One of the other ones I do believe you can come across fairly early on in the game. Again, not a huge one, but it's one of the fairly sure you always have to go there for a Minuteman quest. So let's get straight into it here. There are 3 people that live there, which means they need at least 3 food. They make 15 food. They make 3 water. Security, 1 guy has a gun. No one else has any weapons. At least for me. I don't know if this changes dependent on anything. Shelter is just a wooden shack with holes and stuff in the roof. So score-wise, food, they make like more than double what they need, so they get a 25. Water, they make 3. It's a shallow well fed by the rain, so we'll give them a 10. Security, 1 guy has a gun, 2 guys don't, so we'll give them a 5. Security. After that, we have, what do we got here? Shelter, which is just a 5. And I'm fairly sure my baseline math is wrong up there again, because I spent like all last night doing this, and I am not good at it. So overall, the final score would be a 45 for this place. Not bad for a podunk little place out in the middle of the wasteland the way it is. Quite frankly, with all the wood scraps and stuff floating around, I don't get why they just don't build like basic walls, or at the very least just earthen walls, right? Ancient Rome had this thing where they'd build up like a sloped area around the perimeter of their base, make it steep on one side, make it a gentle slope on the other side, and then they'd build like a waist-high to chest-high wall on top of it. Right now, if this slope goes up 4 feet, you build another 2.5, 3, maybe even 4 feet on top of that. You get a fairly high up wall. They also dig the earth down at the base of this wall along the outside and slope it up so that they have to get funneled down. You know, you can end up with a wall that's like 10, 15 feet high without all that much input, right? So Anyway, moving on to the next one. Now, the next one is where we get a little wishy-washy on what I've already talked about when it comes to robots, because we're talking about Grey Garden. The Garden of Robots. When we show up, sure, they're producing food. I don't remember if there's any well on the property producing water. I mean, there probably is one hand well producing water so that they can water the plants and stuff. Although they do talk about a pump being clogged, so I don't know if they have a well. Any which way, by the by, they're supposed to be atomic robots, right? While in the Soul Survivor's house, we can find, like, Mr. Handy Fuel. I don't think they technically need it. I think they just run off of small atomic batteries or atomic reactors of some kind. Think a fusion core, right? They just kind of do their thing. So, if there's just one in a settlement, when there are people, we're going to count it as a person. If it's just an entire settlement of robots, we're not going to count it. So, really, they're robots. They don't need food. They don't need water. They don't need shelter. Security-wise, yeah, they got buzzsaws and flamethrowers. Which is pretty good hardware at the end of the day, especially in the wasteland. So, they also have a little grabber that can use handguns and stuff. Kind of beside the point there, but yeah, no. Kind of not applicable here for what we're doing. The robots just kind of existing is self-sufficient, right? So, moving on. The next one. Greentop Nursery. Another farm, as you would figure. 2 people live here. And as you would figure, they produce a lot of food. I think they're one of the ones that produce some of the most food in the game. At 26 food, all in all. I think every single plant they have is a mute fruit, whatever you want to call it. And each of those produce 1 unit of food. So they produce a lot of fucking food. So they get a 25 for food. Water. Shallow well. So free water. They produce more than they need. And it's fed by a nearby river, which is great. You know, we can consider the water being in the river filtering a little bit better than water coming through the topsoil down in, especially when radiation is really fucking weird in the Fallout universe. So, by the by, radioactive fallout would only be in like the top 3 to 6 inches of soil. Strip that away, you wouldn't have any more radioactive fallout anywhere. Water sources are where it gets kind of bad, right? If fallout falls into water, it'll settle at the bottom in the mud, in the silt, and that usually won't be a problem unless the mud gets disturbed and then the radioactive particulates get kicked up again. This can happen during floods, rains, loams, whatever. So, who knows? Who knows, right? There shouldn't be radioactive rain in Fallout 200 and some years later. So, there you go, right? Anyway, back to what he's doing. Let me just rehash it all there. They make 26 food, so they get a score of 25 for that. They have more than enough water that's fed by a river, so they get 15 in that. There's 2 people. Each one is armed with a pipe pistol, mind you. Not the best thing on the planet. So they get 10s for that. No walls or anything, no turrets. As for shelter, they get a 5. Now, you may be thinking, why? Why do they get 5? There's an old pre-war house there. Yes, there's an old pre-war Lustron-style house, a lot like the ones in Sanctuary. The issue is, 1, it's falling in on itself, and 2, for some unknown reason, they decided to build a 2-walled shack off of the house to put their beds in. So they're literally just sleeping in a fucking lean-to outside instead of inside the house, which, granted, it wouldn't have been much better shelter-wise, but it would have been better than a 5 score-wise, right? Anyway. Putting that aside, they get a score of 55. I'm just going to be going with the scores that are written up there instead of redoing the math because I'm not confident in what I did before. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments below. Just tell me I'm a dumbass. Cool? Moving on. And yes, I'm going to be moving on quickly from that and just going with whatever scores I have because it's like 4 in the fucking morning. I haven't slept, and it's 90 fucking degrees in here, so let's go. Now, let's rapid fire the next few here. Hangman's Alley, Jamaica Plain, Kingsport Lighthouse, Murkwater Construction Site, all zeros. In order, reason why. Hangman's Alley is a raider base. Jamaica Plain, it's an empty neighborhood with no one there. Kingsport Lighthouse, Cult of Adam, Cult at Home, Murkwater Construction Site. There's a fucking Mirelurk queen that lives there. All zeros. Moving on. So the next one we're talking about is Nordhagen Beach. Let's just quickly get through this because I vaguely remember it. So they produce 2 times what they need for food, so 20. That's cool. They got 3 settlers there, in case I didn't say that already. Water, 1 shallow well fed by the ocean, which may or may not be enough distance from there to leach out the salt water. I don't know. So they get a 15 for that. Security, armed parents, 1 with a pipe pistol, 1 with a shotgun. We're going to give them a 10 for that. Shelter, it's a pre-war building. It's a shack, really. Fully intact roof, for the most part. 3 walls, fully intact. Does have broken windows, though, so we'll give it a 15. Broken windows and no door, but door's not the issue. We'll get a 15 for that, which means they get a 60 in the final score for that. One of the better places to live, to stay out of the elements and actually survive, really. If the water's not salt water in the well, that is. So let's move on to the next one. Now you'll notice I'm not as illuminated as I was. That's because one of my lights is now dead. The other one probably will follow suit. That's what happens when a video is so long. Anyway, next one, Oberlin Station. Population 2-ish, I think. I think I showed up and there were 2 and then looked around and I could only find 1. It was weird. I guess that kind of happens sometimes. I guess they fall through the map or get eaten by dingoes or something. Oberlin Station, little farm. They make more than they need, so we'll give them a 25 or more. Again, last one probably messed up. Who cares? Moving on. All subjective here. We'll give them like a 20, something like that. That's what I have written. What I'm going with. So 20 for that. Water, shallow well, fed by the river. Give them a 15 for that. Security. They're armed with pipe pistols, at least the ones I found anyway, so 10 for that. And shelter is 5. It's a pre-war house, no door, holes all over the place, broken roof, no windows. It's just a, well, I'm going to say house. Looking at my notes that say Tato Farm, I remember which one this is now. This is the one that's one of those 2-story like rail watchtowers that you can come across. It's half caved in. If you look at it, it's like canted off to the side, ready to fall in on itself. Big ass hole in the roof. No doors, no windows. It's not going to protect you for much. Quite frankly, it's dangerous living in the place, but we'll give it a 5 anyway. Final score 50, if my math is correct. If it's not, call me a dumbass in the comments below. Oh, it is hot, goddamn. Moving on to the next one, before all of my lights go dead. Alright, on to the next 2. We're going to do these together because, well, I did this last time. Might as well do it this time. Outpost Zamoria? Zaharia? I don't know why they name shit like that. And one of my favorite places in all of Fallout 4, Red Rocket Truck Stop. Both of them get zeros. No one's living there when we show up. No dog meat does not count. Not his home. Because apparently he was sent out by Preston Garvey and he was on his way to Sanctuary, so it's not his home. Not his home. Yeah, no, zeros across the board for both of those. You know what, might as well do the next one too while we're at it, because half in, half out on this one. Sanctuary Hills. Technically has one being living there, and that's Codsworth. One robot, again, gonna say doesn't need food, doesn't need water, or anything like that, so he's fine. He's good. Just one lonely old robot waiting for his family. Right, so that's those ones done, and we'll move on to the next one. Now, the next one is how I'm feeling at this point in time. The Slog. The Slog is another farm one. I do remember this one. It's a farm run by ghouls, built out of an old, like, YMCA pool area. Makes more than double what it needs food-wise, so we're going to give it a 25 there. Water is a weird one. They have, like, one well, but I don't think they need it. Mostly because they're ghouls, and they can just drink irradiated water, like, from the pool. So, I'm going to say water's not applicable here. And or just give them a 25. Whatever. Security, we're going to give them a 10. Everyone has pipe guns. So, yeah. I think one of them has, like, a shotgun. And shelter is going to surprise you, especially with how stingy I've been on shelter this entire video. Shelter gets a 25. Right? The building that they live in is a pre-war... Well, it's like a little mini pre-war YMCA, right? You have the main club area, then off of each side you have the showers. It's made out of thick concrete. There's like no windows at all in this place, except for small ones that are broken out, of course. The roof is fully intact. And I do believe it has doors on both entrances. That'll keep the weather off you, most likely keep you safe out of a rad storm. So, shelter gets a 25 here, which brings the entire score up to 60, or it could very well be higher, dependent on if you give them water or not. I said it's not applicable, so it's not applying to the overall score, which lowers it. You could add it if you want to. Who knows? Moving on to the next one. The next one, Somerville. Somerville? Somerville. Somerville. Yeah, Somerville. I vaguely remember my late mother watching stuff relating to, like, Somerville letters or something. Long time ago. Late 90s, early 2000s, something like that. Anyway, it's a whole mystery. They say they know who did it. They say he says he didn't do it. Who knows? Who knows? I do vaguely remember this one. Father, two... Wondering why I keep doing that. I can't put down my pinky without putting down my ring finger. If I go from counting to normal to trying to count, like... Anyway. Father, two kids. Simple as that. Little farm, house falling in on itself. One well. You could probably deduce the score from there. Score gets a 25 for food because they make more food than what they need. More than double what they need. That's a 25. Water is score 15. It's a well fed by a river nearby, so that's higher than most. Security is a score of 5. Only one person is armed and they have a shotgun. Shelter, also a 5 because it's a building. It's a pre-war house. It's just missing its roof, which means the ceiling inside is acting as the roof. That's not how it should be, and it's just not good. So, not going to keep you protected from anything. Moving on. Well, before we go moving on, God, I'm getting ahead of myself. Hey, Nancy. Final score, 50, which, gotta say, not all that bad. Maybe I should have been more stringent on how the points are distributed. Far too late now. Let's rapid fire some more here. Spectacle Island, Starlight Drive-In, Taffington Boathouse. I skipped one there. You'll see why in a minute. All zeros across the board. No one lives there when we show up, you know. Spectacle Island, best place to build an entire little city if you want to. Starlight Drive-In, mole rat infestation. What is it? Taffington Boathouse, full of blood bugs, which I fucking hate those things. The one we skipped over was Sunshot Tidings Co-op. It's got a single robot living there, Mr. Handy, like Codsworth, so we're treating it the same way. Not applicable for anything there. Moving on. Now we move on to another one that actually has people living in it. Ten Pines Bluff. One of the first places you come across settlement-wise. Usually one of the places you always have to go to for the Minuteman quest line. 2 people live there. It's a farm. They produce more than twice the food they need to survive. So they get a 25 in food. Water, shallow well, fed from rain, they get a 10. Security, both people armed with pipe rifles. They get a 10. No walls, no turrets, no dedicated guards or anything like that. Shelter is another 5 because it's another fucking wooden shack because no one knows how to build anything 200 years after the end of the world, okay? To put that into perspective, many cities in the United States have been completely built from, like, sweet fuck all nothing through manual labor and industrial fucking machinery. They have power armor in Fallout, so that counts. Why can't these people? Anyway. Final score, 50 out of 100 for them. The next one. An area I do actually enjoy, although it's in a weird place, although the place makes sense. Anyway, it's the Warwick Homestead. There are 6 people that call this place home. It's another farm / homestead, as it says in the title. Produces more than twice the food it needs, so it gets 25. Water is a 10. They have 1 shallow well that gives half of what they need. But the woman by the name of June there, she's a trader. And traders stop by here frequently, so we can figure that they buy the extra water that they need. They could just drink it out of the ocean or distill it from the ocean. Doesn't matter. Funny thing is, the entirety of this place is actually a giant water sanitation system, if you didn't know. It's not working, otherwise this would be, like, awesome for the fucking Commonwealth. But yeah, no, it's the water sanitation system is what it is. Yeah. Anyway, food score 25, water score 10, security, everyone's armed here. That gets a 10. Shelter, 25. Well, 20 on there. No idea why I gave it a 20 and not a 25 for shelter. We're just going to roll with it. The reason being, their building is a reinforced concrete sanitation building, right? Metal doors into and out of it. Although there is only 1 set of doors, so that could be why I knocked it down. It's late. It's early. It's like 6 in the fucking morning now. And it's hot, so bear with me here. So, by the by, the Warwick Homestead gets 65 out of 100 score-wise, which is higher than most, but, you know, the lowest score that we've actually given a place with a person in it is 0, and then the next step up from that has been, like, 50, so not too bad so far. And you may be thinking, in the baseline game, that would be like all of the settlements that you can come across, that you can build, that you can work up. And you'd be right. And no, I'm not doing the DLCs. But what we're moving on to next is, it's going to be interesting. You'll see. Next one is going to be Good Neighbor. Right, we're going to do the main settlements here that I feel like doing that. Right, so Good Neighbor. Awesome town. Have to go there for the main quest to go into the memory den. Neat place. You meet Hancock he helps you out from the guy trying to rob you as soon as you come in. Mind you, if you kill that guy flat out, Hancock, commends you for doing so, saying that you fit right in Good Neighbor. This town is strange. They don't grow food. Guess they don't need to when they're like a trade/drug capital. Yes, I would call the memory loungers drugs because I don't know, to me they are. Anyway, they don't produce their own food, but they trade for it, so we'll give them a 0, right? Not applicable to worry about food, so that's a running 0 there. Water is a unique one, and in that they are, I think, the only ones so far that have gotten a 25 for water. You may be wondering why. The reason that they get a 25 for water is because Good Neighbor pulls from pre-war infrastructure. Now, most pre-war infrastructure would have, as I said earlier in the video, been water pumped up into a water tower, then, gravity can feed it down to the town, Good Neighbor seems to run off of its own deep well system, which means everyone has pure, clean drinking water here. That's a 25. You don't need to worry about it because you can pull up as much as you want and as much as you need. So they get a 25 for that. Security, they get a 25 for that. They have walls, they have guards, they have a combat fucking robot. They're good. They get a 25 for security, right? Shelter, I'm going to give them a 20, not a 25, because they are pre-war buildings that people live in. Some people live in shacks outside, which is fucking weird. But they are pre-war buildings. Some of them are heavily damaged. Some of them are not as badly damaged, but still, they're living in ruins instead of building up their own house. So we're just going to give them a 20 there, just because the issues that arise from living in a ruin. So that means Good Neighbor gets a 70 out of 100. Now, since food is not applicable, you could add the 25 onto if you want. You can leave it out if you want. Doesn't really matter. And with Good Neighbor out of the way, we're going to move on to the next one here. Now, this one was a toss-up on whether I wanted to do it after Good Neighbor or before the last one. And this is Vault 81. It's a town you can visit. I'm going to put it here, second to last, maybe. Could be last. I don't know. Haven't edited the video yet. Because I want to explain something about the vaults, okay? First off, it gets a maxed out of, like, everything. It's got, like, 96 people, almost 100 people that live here. Food is fine, water is fine, security is fine, shelter is fine. You don't need to worry about any of that. Food is what I want to talk about, right? Food and water. Main two things here. Water comes from a water chip. We have to go find one in the first game. We get one in the third game. Well, James plays with one in the third game, and then you have to go get a Gek, and in the show, the water chip's fucking damaged and all that. Anyway. Water chips are strange things because they're not filtration systems, right? If they were water filters, well, vaults are underground to just dig deep wells, right? Very deep wells are going to make sure that the water is never contaminated. You wouldn't need a water chip for that if it was just purifying water. So what I think it does is I think the water chip relies on the same type of tech the Sierra Madre vending machines does. It converts power into water, which is why if a water chip breaks and the vault apparently doesn't have a fucking well, the vault runs out of water. Okay? It also explains why vaults need so many nuclear reactors and nuclear generators in them to keep everything going. If it was just lights and heating and cooling and like a water pump, you wouldn't need like 4 fucking nuclear reactors in a vault, right? But that brings us to vault extruders. We know vault extruders make vault suits. We don't know what they make vault suits from. Which again brings me back to the Sierra Madre vending machines. A lot of people will say that the chips themselves have the materials in them to make the item. I say it doesn't because you need a fusion battery, I think it's called, or fission battery to make the chips. When you counterfeit them, you just need scrap metal and one of those batteries, and you can counterfeit these chips. I feel like each chip is just a predetermined amount of energy that the system can pull from. It's also why the system can make the chips, right? So, I think the vault extruders that make the vault suits just literally burn energy to make the vault suits. Which brings us to food in the vault. Strangely enough, every goddamn vault we come across, almost every goddamn vault we come across, ones in the show especially, have pre-war food. Pre-packaged, pre-war food that just never goes bad. So I'm going with it. It's not that it never goes bad, it's that they just make it when they need it. Sierra Madre vending machines can do this. Why can't vault extruders, right? That's what I'm going with anyway. Some do have hydroponics and whatnot, but there's never enough to feed all of the people in the vaults, right? So, and yes, the one Vault 31, 32, and 33, I guess, technically have little mini farms where they try to explain away that they all have to grow food, and it's not the case for any other vault, so we're just going to chalk that up to it being part of the experiment there, making sure the people understood how to farm and whatnot as part of the education for the betterment of human whatever the fuck that those vaults were for. Anyway, this brings us to, well, this is either the last one, in which case, hi, cool, neat, or this is the second to the last one, in which case we're moving on to the next one. Now, the next one is the Jewel of the Commonwealth. Now, this could be after Good Neighbor, it could be the last one, I don't know, not edited this video yet. And that is Diamond City, as you would probably figure from the other ones I've put on the list so far. Now, settlers in-game, so the amount of residents in Diamond City in-game is 60. In lore, it's like 800 people that call Diamond City home, which is pretty cool. Just, scaled down for the game, I guess. Food score. Yeah, no, now that I've fixed what I'm actually looking at. Food score for Diamond City is 10. They make 43 food, which is like half of what they need. We're giving them a 10 and not a 5 because it's a town full of traders. They could probably barter for the food they need at that point. If we go with the in-lore number, yeah, I'd give this like a 0 because they're not producing anywhere near enough food to feed 800 people. So that's food. Water now. They make 40 water, give or take, because that's the bald-headed kid that lives over in the puddle. That water thing outside, you can build those in settlements. They produce 40 water when given power. Yeah, that's a score of 5 because it's like half of what they need. In lore, it's even less, right? And we'll come back to the puddle thing here on why I don't really like Diamond City after we give it its final score here. The next one is, of course, security. Diamond City gets a 25. Walls, security, turrets, whole 9 yards, good to go. Has everything you could ever want or need. Hell, it has its own private military, really, so you're good. You're good. Diamond City is great for that one there. Shelter. Shelter is one of the main reasons I don't really care for Diamond City. Everything's just scrap metal built up from, I guess, scrap from outside of there. Built on the green. It's not the best thing out there. We're giving it a... What did I say there? We're giving it a 15 and not a 10 because the scrap metal they use seems to be better quality than the scrap metal that most other places use. And as such, you can't see the sky from inside most of the buildings because they're interior load cells. So, better built than most places. That gives us a final score in Diamond City of 55. Less than most, well, higher than most places, less than some. Whilst it's a nice place to live, not the best one in the wasteland. Now I'm going to go on a little tangent about Diamond City. The way it's made makes no sense, right? Historically, we have something similar, well, the world used to have something similar to Diamond City in real life. After Rome kind of went to shit back in the day, people started living in the Colosseum. They lived in the hallways and stuff around the outside of it. Little shanty apartments and whatnot. They were eventually cleared out. What they didn't do was live in the actual fighting arena pit. Why? One, it was unstable. Two, all sorts of other shit was going on at the time. But yeah, no, it's just... This is how Diamond City should have been built. The bleachers and stuff are all empty except for like one bar. And then like most of it is just filled with garbage where they've been throwing it for some reason. Clean the bleachers all out, right? Anchor down into the concrete that the bleachers are made out of. Build standing houses. You can have tiers of standing houses. Or you can build everything, bump it all out, build one entire ring of, like, houses and stuff. And then build another ring down of, like, infrastructure, water purification, all that sort of shit. And then, like, another one down closer to the green or along the outside of the green be your shops and stuff, freeing up the green to be nothing but farmland with no water on it. Okay? I can't stress that enough. These stadiums and stuff are not built on solid ground. They're built over infrastructure that is under the ground. Tunnels and stuff, right? Even if it's just to run wires and stuff from point A to point B. We are 200 years after the end of the world, and in Diamond City proper, there is water that is just billowing out of the ground on the green. Alright? That means the entirety of the green there is ready to turn into a massive fucking sinkhole. Right? We have this issue in the United States at this point, especially along the East Coast, which is much older than the rest of the country. Mines. Right? A lot of the East Coast used to have a bunch of coal mines. We have good anthracite coal on the East Coast. Best coal you can get on the planet. And they would mine this shit like no tomorrow, leaving giant holes under the ground. You get rain goes through the soil, finds the lowest place, through taking the path of least resistance and all that happy good shit, drips down from the top, comes in from the side, seeps in, and slowly erodes these places. Till eventually, it collapses in on itself, creating a sinkhole. Right? We have a huge problem in the United States, on the East Coast, where these mines were dug 200 years ago. No one knows where the fuck they are. Next thing you know, half a housing development sinks into the fucking ground. Right? So that's what's probably going to happen to Diamond City. Also, one of the reasons I don't like Diamond City. But mind you, they could have completely mitigated this, because most stadiums and stuff that have a lot of underground infrastructure have pumps to pump these places out. They're sub pumps, they take the water, they pump it up out if it floods. They can literally just use those pumps to produce water for themselves. Mind you, Diamond City should have its own wells and stuff. Like, most likely its own well, if not hooked up to city infrastructure, right? Just like Good Neighbor. Why it pulls from fucking water bleeding in from the ground, I don't know. Anyway, tangent aside, it's like 6:30 in the fucking morning. It's like 90 degrees. I have not slept at all yet. My voice is getting kind of hoarse from talking so long. Thank you for watching, if you still are. If this is your first or second time here, hope you enjoyed the video. If this is your third time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on when I post. I have a Discord if you want to come yell at me there. We have memberships. $1 a month gets you members-only videos. $2 a month gets you early access to every video I post. Anything beyond that gets your name in the credits and whatnot. And, yeah, if you would rate any of these settlements differently than me, tell me in the comments below. Feel like just calling me a jackass, go ahead and feel free. I don't mind. And with all that out of the way, I'm going to drink some cold water, climb into bed, and go to sleep. So, good night.